Welcome to CLIC Connect. I'm your host, Craig Sullivan. And guess what? We've got Chris Green joining the show from Chesapeake Hospitality. Chris, welcome. How are you, your family, and your team?
Craig, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. It's always an honor to be with you, and family's doing good. We're almost at the end of the school year, so summer's coming up, and the team is, albeit stressed, excited about the volume of business through our hotels.
I'll bet. Now, you've got three core principles that make you and Chesapeake really a value add to everybody out there on the management arm, industry leader. Would you tell the audience a little bit about that, please?
Yeah, I'd love to. You know, Chesapeake's a mid-sized shop, and our core values are honesty, integrity, and humility. Honesty is what it is, right? Do the right thing all the time, no matter how difficult it is, which in a management relationship can be difficult sometimes when you have to sit and tell the owner, listen, we've got to do this PIV. We've got to invest in the asset. We've got to hire this person that's outside the pricing for the market, but they're going to make a difference. And then humility is just working really hard, but understanding that it takes everybody else to make this happen. It's not that one leader or one person on the team, it's the team together, and being humble about the results. But the most important one for us through the pandemic has been integrity, Craig, right? Integrity demands that you do what you say you're going to do. And it's the question is if you're of integrity, if what you say are your standards, if they're not true all the time, they're not your standards. And so we were faced with a major conundrum as we went into the pandemic is how do we honor the management contracts that we signed that said we were going to manage these assets and deal with the catastrophic shortfall in revenues. And so I think you know a little bit of the story. We made the decision to retain 100% of our corporate team,
Right.
retask them to focusing on different aspects of the business, cash management, future development of sales, retooling systems. So we spent the pandemic getting ready for what was next because I always knew hospitality was going to be back. Just when was it going to happen?
You know, absolutely. And I think that was one of the things that I really admired about your Chris's Corner on Glenn Houseman and Anthony's show. You know, you cut through the chase and you are a technology guy. You are an honorable person and you did retain your people. And I think you're more of a servant leader. It's not about me, it's about us. And how can we improve our scenario and still take care of our guests? So,
yeah, it's really been a benefit. And, you know, our clients, I've had a bunch of client meetings coming out the backside here. And the thing they mentioned most is that they had access to every single one of the team members on the corporate side that they had before the pandemic, just in a different capacity. So our head of revenue was making sure that no matter what market we're in, that if one room showed up on our overnight reports traveling, that we were telling the rest of the company, okay, check this rate code, check this SRP, talk to this person on the GDS because they're moving about the country and we want to win those rooms. So we were just really spending time making sure we provided value. And the comments I heard were, it was valuable to me. You honored our relationship. You know, if integrity, I always say it's like a coffee filter. We use integrity. It's not going to if it doesn't get through that filter, we don't do it.
Good. Yeah. And I think that's the right approach. I mean, we're all people, you know, related, and it is about relationships. And, you know, we all went through a horrific time where people that we had relationships with have either been furloughed or laid off, and hopefully they've been brought back or they've moved on and we still continue that relationship. But that was a core element for you and Chesapeake to keep in touch and work with those owners and keep them informed. And I'm sure you're doing the same thing with all the lenders as well, because like it or not, at the end of the day, your lender is also your partner.
Right.
And, you know, you've got to keep that relation, especially if you've got a property where the loan's coming due, say this year or next.
Yeah.
And you don't want it, you know, going into a foreclosure scenario. How has your team been interacting with the brands? Now, everybody I've been talking to, it's different, but it's been good. The brands have all been helping, and you run multiple brands, you know, through multiple states. How's that been?
It's been good. I mean, initially it was difficult. There was a lot of reorganization among the brands. Fortunately, Chesapeake's been around 65 years, so we have a lot of very long relationships with a lot of really senior people at the brands. Think Hilton, Marriott, IHG. So a lot of our people made it through the initial cuts at the brand. So we went right to our connections and said, listen, nothing is changing about how we act as brand stewards. When we're in a Hilton property, we bleed blue. When we're at a Marriott, we bleed brown, and we're going to continue to do that. All we ask is that you are aware of everything that we're doing for our owners, what they're going through, and that you acknowledge our stewardship with these properties through this. So when it comes out, we can make sure we have the same relationship we had. And honestly, Craig, I've been very lucky because of the long relationships. And I think it has to do, frankly, with a tenure of our people. My senior leadership team has over 10 years on average. So those relationships aren't new.
Right. Absolutely. Great point. And that pays dividends not only for Chesapeake as a whole, but the owners that you represent. And they know that you can pick up that phone and make a call to Marriott, Hilton, IHG, various others, and you're going to take care of them and what could be a perceived problem, but it also could be a perceived gem that adds more revenue and more presence to the hotel.
I'm always surprised that people don't realize the value of making sure you're a good steward in good times and bad, because you build up, it's like the same thing at home with my wife, right? You got to fill the love tank. So you got to make sure you're doing the right things. So when it comes around that you need something, you have some equity that you can go draw down. Otherwise, if you're always taking, there's nothing left. So we try to make sure that's a way we do business.
And you know what? That was primarily one of the reasons why I left publicly held corporate America after 38 years. And it was not about the stakeholders in the company. And, I constantly was telling them, look, if you don't treat people right, you know what you've got? They said, no, what do we have? I said, you got an empty office with a lot of phones ringing and nobody answering. And it's true more so today than it was prior to the pandemic. So how has it been getting team members back on site and adding to the corporate team and adding more properties to management? And I think you've probably seen some optimism for the past 60 days that we didn't have before. So how has that been
It's
going?
been fascinating. So let me take the last two first. New opportunities are quite available, right? People have finally decided what they're going to do with their property, whether they need to change management, whether they're going to reflag, and they need a manager that's skilled in that flag. So we're seeing a lot of opportunities and have a pretty full pipeline of opportunities we're reviewing. We did add some corporate team members heading out of the pandemic. We added in the development side. And also in revenue management to make sure that not only are we ready to grow the company, Chesapeake, but also grow our owners' portfolios through our revenue management side. Now, as it relates to team members, we're in the same spot everybody else is. We have a great culture and we kept a lot of our people, but getting the remaining 30% of the employees that we're missing back has been a tremendous struggle. And we're doing a lot of the things that you hear everybody else is doing, trying to attract and retain new people. But mainly we're trying to talk about the fact that just like myself, starting in an hourly position and going all the way to the top of the company, you can do that in hospitality. And I think now, if you don't join hospitality now, you're missing a huge opportunity because we need great people. And think about it. If you're great and you want to be great, imagine now how fast you could rise through the ranks. It could be a whole new story you could be writing.
I agree. And, you're an example of that. Our friend Tom Cachet is another example of that. Drew Hardy at 24/7 Hotels. And as I'm fond of saying, not everybody has to go to Wall Street. If you want a career, you can build a career and a great livelihood for you and your family in the hospitality sector. And, it's I never want to meet Oliver Stone because that movie Wall Street ruined generations.
It did.
Okay, they didn't get that Gordon Gekko was the bad guy.
It did.
Okay,
It did.
But I know that you're doing everything humanly possible to bring new people in and working with recruiters and everything else. Now, on just growth of development. How has that been? What are you seeing? Are you seeing trends that are starting now where you've got the opportunity to pick up more management agreements right now? Are you also offering receiver services for some of the lenders out there?
So it's not something we typically do, receiver services, mainly because Chesapeake's a relationship company, and in that there is the only relationship is with the receiver, right, or the special servicer. So there's not a ton of it's literally sitting in the seat until the asset either trades or is taken back,
right?
Those type of things. So we don't do a ton of that. We've done some. Ours are typically owners who've made a decision that they need something more. Chesapeake provides personalized service. You can have access to me and the senior leadership team at any time you need it to make sure that you're getting everything you need from our company. We know our owners intimately. We know their investment thesis and what's happening and what happens in their markets. So we can give personalized and customized, tailored service to a hotel. And a lot of owners, after going through with some of the larger, more institutional managers, have realized, listen, I need some more focus on my asset. And that's where we're seeing an opportunity.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. And I also think, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you're also part of your value add is, knowing your owners so well, which ones are in a deal mode, and you can bring them the off-market transaction or that quiet whisper because of your relationship, whether it's with a brand or a lender or various other owners. And I think we're going to have a few owners that just said, hey, you know what? I'm kind of done. I went through the financial meltdown. I've gone through this now. I'm trying to stabilize the property, and then, we're going to sell it.
Yeah. So the big thing for us, what I tell our development team is that I don't have to have a hotel that was underperforming before the pandemic. Since we're a value add and a value creation company, I can take a hotel that looked like it was doing well in 19 and pay a decent comparable to 19 and still make a ton of money coming out. Because listen, we're going to get back our ADR. I know that HVS and CBRE and all them are saying rates going to be muted only in certain kind of hotels. And quite frankly, to me, I take all of that with a grain of salt. That's for average performers. And I just don't believe our team are average performers. So we're going to accelerate back out of this thing. And there's going to be opportunity to be had coming out of this. And even hotels that look like they were doing well.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think there's some real opportunities coming up. And that's excluding the CMBS portion of it, because I don't even want to play in that arena anymore. It's just like a mess. No,
who does?
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, CMBS, and not to upset all the CMBS lenders out there, they perform a valuable service. You get that 100, 125, $200 million deal. That's where you need to go. But I'm pragmatic on the outlook on CMBS because it was never designed for the hospitality sector. It wasn't designed for a 24-hour lease. Okay?
Well, it's also very attractive to individual and high net worth owners like mine, just because of your leverage capabilities and the lack of recourse. However, when nobody ever planned for a pandemic, right? How could you? And how could you know? We knew there was going to be a downturn. But a downturn, when we look at 09 and 01 now, those are just little blips compared to what we went through the past 16 months. So this is going to rewrite all the books on how you underwrite hotels, what you plan for, because I'm wondering, when are we planning for the next 100-year pandemic? Hopefully it's long after I'm gone. So.
That makes two of us, my friend. Yeah, it's like, no. Once is enough. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Now, you touched on something, and me being a deal junkie, because that was always my backstory. Are you seeing things changing? Are you seeing, like CapEx, instead of 12 months, it's going to be 24 months? Are you seeing different insurance requirements? Are you seeing, little nuances in the PSA? In the LOI, are you seeing any of that starting to change now?
Yeah, we're actually executing a transaction, or we're getting ready to finalize a PSA today. And we actually had written a similar PSA right before the pandemic happened. And so this one has got some nuances in it that are allowing some more ability to underwrite certain things, to also for some carryover provisions on the backside of the deal to make sure that unintended consequences are covered for as we close out the deal. It's just a little bit more complex. The other thing that I'm seeing that's very interesting, Craig, is, and I saw this at Hunter, is all of the new development. So people went out and raised hundreds of millions of dollars being ready to buy distressed assets. And because of the the government support that we got through the early parts of the pandemic with the CARES Act and CARES Act 2, hotels were able to make it longer than anybody planned. And now when we're looking at revenue starting to come back, I mean, last month our portfolio was at 66% of 2019 numbers for the same month. So we're starting to see it come back. Why would you sell now? Why not wait 12 months if you can make it and sell it at full value? So what were we seeing at the Hunter Show? People talking about new builds. Because, well, if I've got all this money and I can't buy anything and I can't deploy the capital, I'm going to have to build something. And there is land available, which nobody thought that was coming. Nobody thought there was going to be new deals being written. But every single one of the brand reps I talked to said, man, we're busy with new construction, new development.
Absolutely. And, talking to our friends over at IHG, they've got, certain programs for dual branded, almost a mini hotel, depending, on the rural location and a few other things. So, I think there's some real opportunities there, but, I think the brand conversions, I think every one of, the people that I'm talking to at the brands are going, that's going to be the backbone of my business for the next 2 years.
Yeah.
Now, on those nuances, something that was brought to my attention, and I had to think about it, that pregnant pause in the eye roll, on the PPP loans. Now, you may have gotten forgiveness on the first one, but the second one may not be. And if you're in escrow, you've got to now request that escrow hold on to that money until that determination is made. So, you're going to have some sellers that are, not going to be too happy with that, but you as the buyer or representing one of your clients, you can't put them in harm's way for that. It's like if you didn't do a UCC search, on all the equipment and everything and find out if there was any debt. And all of a sudden, hey, here's a bill for $200,000.
Right. And that's what I was talking about, those drag along provisions that have to get satisfied before the deal's fully and finally settled. So I had not thought about the CARES Act. We didn't have one. We didn't have that situation, but that is an interesting one for sure.
Hey, I passed on some information to you. Wow, I'm feeling really good about myself, Chris.
Well, I know you're talking to everybody all the time, so that's good. I just made a note of that to talk about that, so that's good.
I love it, my friend. Unfortunately, Chris, we are out of time, and I could spend the next hour or two talking to you, but you are also very busy getting your team deployed, taking care of your owners, taking care of guests. Somebody in the audience wants to reach out to you and talk to you about a couple of management agreements. How can they get a hold of you and your team?
It's the easiest just to go to our website, of course, like everybody else, ChesapeakeHospitality.com, or hit me up on LinkedIn. I respond to all my messages. I'd love to talk to you. I'd love to talk about the business, as Craig knows. I love to talk about people that want to grow their careers. If you're somebody looking for a great opportunity, you can find our page on LinkedIn. We've got our opportunities posted. We'd love to have you join. It's a great business. I love it.
Absolutely. Don't we all? It is. It's a people business. It's a career. And as I tell producer Danny all the time, I work and have met the best of the best. This is the best part of commercial real estate, without a doubt.
Yeah.
So,
Craig,
Chris, thank you for joining me, my friend.
Thank you, sir. I enjoyed it.
Great. And you can get a chance to meet Chris at CLIC 5, live and in person on October 5th at the new Crown Jewel of the Anaheim Resort area, the JW Marriott. As you can see scrolling along the screen is our website and a discount code. I'm not going to tell you what that code is because you need to write it down and get registered. Make your room reservations, please. Also, I'd like to thank our production partners, Red Roof Franchising and Chicago Title's National Commercial Services Group, based right here in California. So it's in the title with them. You can reach out to both of them. Tell them that producer Danny and Craig sent you to have a talk with them. They're great people at both companies, and you'll enjoy it. They'll be able to help you. And also, I want to thank you, our audience, for joining us today. And you know what? Be kind. Share your knowledge. Go be amazing.